Now here we have another interesting question from 2022. The moment I look at this question, I should say, okay, this is probably going to test my understanding of conditional statements. How do I know this? Because it is clearly an if-then sort of a statement. If I had known you needed to go to the airport yesterday, I could drive you there. Now, some of us who have excellent knowledge of English might be able to spot the error right away. But for some of us, it's a little more difficult. So, we are going to look at the rules for conditional statements. And here, we need to know that there are at least 4 types of conditional statements that you might be presented with. So, let's take a look at the rules. Now, the first conditional is what we call the zero conditional. We use this for anything that happens all the time. It is a general truth. If this happens, something else also happens. For example, if water reaches 100 degrees, it boils. So, in this case, we're using the simple present tense in both parts of the statement, the if part and the then part. But that is not the situation we have here. So, this is not the rule that applies. Now, the first conditional is also fairly common. It talks about real future possibilities. Now, you will see that in the first conditional, we use the present tense in the first half and the future tense in the second half. If you study, you will pass. When I make this statement, I believe that this is a real thing. It is likely to happen, although I'm not absolutely certain of it. But again, this does not apply to our original sentence. So let's take a look at the next conditional. The second conditional says something about a hypothetical situation, which means that it is not really likely to happen. But how do we express that? If I were rich, I would buy a car. Now, this statement clearly tells me that I am not rich and therefore I'm not likely to buy a car. Now, please notice how this sentence is constructed. In the first half, we're using the verb were. Were implies this is not real, I'm just imagining it. And the second part says would buy, which kind of means that I am not actually going to buy it, but if things had been different, I might have done it. Again, here we are using the simple past in the first half, but it does not apply to the sentence that we have here, because the sentence that is given to us uses the past perfect, if I had known. Now, the moment we use the past perfect in the if part of the sentence, we are actually using the third conditional. So, this is the rule that is relevant for us. This also is a hypothetical or imaginary situation, but it's about the past. So, how do we express ourselves? If you had studied, you would have passed. So, the first part says had done something, and the second part typically has a would have or a could have. Now, given this particular format, let's take a look at our options. We should be able to say that C and D cannot be our answer because it cannot be would drive or should drive. It should have been would have or should have. So, C and D get eliminated. Now, we have two close options, should have driven versus would have driven. Now, the original sentence tells you that someone needed to go to the airport. If someone needs to go, then we would have done something for them. So, what is the difference between would and should? Would says that I would definitely have done it had things been different. But should says that it was desirable for me to have done it, but I might not actually have done it. So again, look at the author's intention, and that is why understanding the meaning is very important. And in most cases, when you're using the third conditional, you should say that if I had done something, then I would also have done something else. Therefore, we will eliminate option A and select B as our answer.